Hello, my name is Dan Taylor, and this is my presentation for EDL 852, Module number 12, Case Study. Before we begin and dive into the information with this case study, a little bit of information about how I analyze and critique the information presented in the case study itself is right here. My current process is basically I do a multiple read process. I do a first read without any annotation, taking mental notes and trying to understand the full picture. And upon a second and possibly even third read, I try to read with annotations and comments on the paper itself. As I annotate this work, I continually ask myself a series of questions, but specifically these two on the screen. What might have been the rationale and motivation for each individual party to do what was stated in the case study text? And what would I do in this situation? What would I keep the same as far as continuity? And what would I change as far as making a difference? These are important questions to ask, as well as having the need to incorporate myself into the situation. How I synthesize information from the course and into this information presented in the case study. This course was centered around a few key concepts, many others, but just a few presented here in bold, is that there's collaboration and building consensus. This is very much important, especially in regards to the standard language of creating collaboration to serve students and adults. Additionally, within this, another key concept is building team-based norms, as well as understanding their impact and how best practice principles within this can help stave off issues and can help create consensus within organizations and schools. In this course module, I tried to emphasize the key points of collaboration and consensus building that were central to community buy-in and development. In creating a response to this case study situation, I tried to seek solutions that supported the notion of promoting the current and future success and well-being of students and community stakeholders. Additionally, my suggested path forward followed the best practice principles of working collaboratively to design and implement a school mission, vision, and process that was equitable in nature and would truly reflect a community's core values. In regards to the case study, let's first establish what has occurred and when the events occurred. So what has occurred is that there's been a debate and internal struggle that has developed as the new school's building principal has tried to create representative philosophy and vision statements for the school and community. When the events occurred is that the events in questions occurred in the aftermath of a relatively contentious community referendum centered around the question of whether or not to develop and build a new middle school for the community school district. Now, more information about this will be discussed further in this presentation, but ultimately the details of this struggle has pitted the school principal with her planning committee members. And as far as when the events occurred and what happened with this referendum is that there's differences within the community that coalesced into ultimately building and developing a new building. As far as this case study, who is involved? One of the individuals is the Lightville School District Superintendent Joe Rawlings. Mr. Rawlings is a person who's empowered the soon-to-be mentioned principal in developing the vision and basically building out of the school. One of the first tasks was having the principal build out the staff, which he was able to do very quickly. But as far as the case study, one of the key issues came around building out vision, mission, and philosophy statements. With that, the new founding principal of the Lightville School District Middle School is Susan Potter, who is a person from outside of the school district, but has been brought in to develop this new school and as well as its vision, mission, and philosophy statements. Additionally, who is involved is teachers and community parents that compose the advisory committee called the Visioning and Planning Committee as developed by Principal Potter. Additionally, that should be mentioned is one of the key figures within this case study is the chairperson of the advisory committee, and that is a Ms. Helen Burke, who is a teacher within the school district. Additionally, just some, I guess you could say, tangential people involved in this are members of the Lightville School District School Board, people that voted to build out this building itself, as well as community factions. These factions are groups of people within the community that had differing opinions on if a building should be built out and developed or other options within that. So the three factions are as such. There were large landowners opposed to new expenditures and did not want a new building at all. They felt that there were too many debts that needed to be taken care of already. There were residents who just straight up did not support the new middle school and perhaps wanted more of a build out of the current buildings in the elementary and high school levels. Additionally, there were also just residents who did support the development of the new school, and this group ultimately won out with the referendum. In continuing the summary and establishing facts, it's important to understand what those involved have to say. For this, I focused on the two key stakeholders within this case study, the building principal and the chairperson. So starting off with the building principal of Lightville School District's new middle school, Susan Potter, in response to seeming contention from the chairperson and committee members of the planning committee, Ms. Potter stated her desire for her ideal process of development. And in stating this is her overall vision and outline of how she wanted the development of these vision, mission, and philosophy statements to go. She stated, "I don't think having me develop the philosophy, mission, and vision alone is appropriate. A vision statement should reflect the collective thinking of stakeholders. Additionally," she said, "I will share my philosophy and facilitate decisions, but I don't want to be an autocrat. Nor do I want to be put in a position where everyone blindly accepts what I propose." Now, I underline that last portion, as in this case study, I feel personally that this is something that she could have cleared up, and that she had an assumption of fact without further communication, a possible misstep from Ms. Potter. Continuing on, the chairperson of the Visioning and Planning Committee is a school district teacher, and her name is Helen Burke. In the time after being named chair of the committee, Helen stated her desire that the process of developing a vision statement should go against the stated wishes of the building principal. And ultimately, she stated this: "I speak for our entire planning committee in telling you that we are comfortable having you shape these documents." Now, what isn't on the screen is additionally, she seemingly met with the other members of this committee to basically have an opinion and a vote, in stating that they did not want to follow Ms. Potter's process as stated, and that they wanted her to single-handedly develop these statements as mentioned in that quote there. Now, within this, at this point of the case study, I feel that the school principal, Susan Potter, was the individual who was doing their best to follow a process of development that would ultimately promote the current and future success and well-being of the community school. She was the individual best equipped with the knowledge, skills, and commitments necessary to collaboratively lead, design, and implement the necessary philosophic vision and mission statements that would support the growth of the new school. Again, too, with this, her being equipped with that knowledge, she was hired as an outsider from the community, as she was viewed as incredibly capable, and she is viewed as a visionary leader within the community. Now, with that, I believe the community members also took upon that knowledge and said, "Hey, since you were hired for this, you should take on this role." But ultimately, she was the one best equipped with that. Now, with that, she could have taken on additional steps in preparation to help those in the committee see how they could contribute to a more democratic process, and could have taken additional steps to have an understanding of the community before entering into this development process. As will be mentioned in the summary of this case, that ultimately I feel like Susan Potter, again, had a great vision and a great purpose and wanted a collaborative process within this, but I feel that she had some missteps in actually developing and implementing a collaborative process, and allowed these other stakeholders to input their opinion before these things could be developed. Now, moving on to section 2, legal and ethical issues. At the current juncture of this event, there does not appear to be any potential legal issues or laws broken. Now, with that, there are other issues, though, and ethical ones. Ethically, I feel the advisory planning committee members seemingly haven't taken part in this planning process in good faith. Ultimately, by negating their role in the actual creation of the school's philosophy, vision, and mission statements, they've abdicated their duty as contributing members of this committee. While also not physically hurt, their lack of participation did not contribute to the ideas of equity and consensus that would have contributed to the future well-being of the school and community. Ultimately, in my opinion, I feel like that in abdicating their duty, they've ultimately done nothing. They haven't contributed, they haven't provided any opinions, and ultimately they're undermining this process, and again, ethically not following best practice principles in being a member of this committee. My synthesized summary. In the early stages of planning and building out a newly approved middle school, the building principal and members of her advisory planning committee have been at odds over the development of the schools to be developed philosophy and vision statements. The principal wants to enact a collaborative and democratic process of development, while the remaining members of the committee want her to establish control and take the lead on developing these statements alone. Some additional relevant facts of the case. As previously mentioned, some key people within this case are Ms. Susan Potter, the middle school building principal that has been newly hired to this building, Ms. Helen Burke, the advisory committee chairperson, who did take on this role apprehensively, as Ms. Potter did not want to be the one as the chief and authoritarian of this committee, and she was appointed as such. Additionally, there are other members of the new advisory planning committee who have also basically voted with their input on having Ms. Potter take this on initially. There's also the district superintendent, Joe Rawlings, who's hired Ms. Potter and has empowered her to lead the build out of this middle school and its process, as well as the Lightville School District community, and that would include the school board as well as the citizens of Lightville. Now, in regards to Lightville, some information on the place. The place deals with the overall community of the Lightville Community School District, and the school district is centered in a rural location. And as mentioned in the case study information, 60% of the community is identified as farmers. So this is a very rural and agricultural based community. But it is enduring changes via population growth. And with that, the community of Lightville has a relative proximity of roughly 10 miles from a city center that has contributed to the community's growth with more tenable property prices and ultimately a draw for people from this city and urban area coming into this rural one. And as not mentioned on the screen, this mixture of the traditional rural citizens with this new influx of urban citizens have created contention within the community. And that contention was represented in this referendum vote of how that should be moving forward with building out the school itself. Program information. This is a public school with an overall district population of 1,200 students, albeit growing. The school district serves 2 different townships within its rural setting, and the current situation centers around the development of this new middle school that's on the same campus as the 2 pre-existing schools. Currently, the district is composed of just that elementary school and that mixed junior-senior high school that serves grades 7 through 12. Now, also too, the contention of building out the school in regards to the location of all the 2 buildings already in place is that the community members feel that they've already incurred massive debts in developing these schools and its add-ons, and that building an entirely new school will increase the tax burden on the citizens of Lightville. Now, as far as information review and prioritization, first, what are the effects on stakeholders? Without a clear vision, mission, and philosophic statement, the staff of this new school could start a school year without a clear purpose or direction in how to achieve success. The students that are a part of the school could suffer as the teachers and staff may not be able to successfully support the success and well-being of students in an equitable process that celebrates the diversity within the surrounding community. And as learned in this course, without a clear vision, mission, and philosophic statement, the goals of the school itself may be unclear. Outsiders may not be able to see and determine what success is, and ultimately, too, there won't be an aligned vision for the staff. Additionally, of who has a stake in the outcome is arguably the entire community of the Lightville School District. That includes leadership, teachers, students, parents, and community. The vision, mission, and philosophy statements of the school help to create a clear set of goals and actions that will direct all in building stakeholders towards their definition of success. And again, too, as far as the stake in the outcome, this is going to involve just about everyone within this, but in the short term, specifically the leadership of Ms. Potter, the teachers in the building, and the students that are going to learn there. At this point, I'm going to pause for the end of part 1. I will continue this information of the case study in a separate video.